You are looking for a truly show-stopping holiday meal, maybe you people coming over for Christmas, people stopping in, and you need a way to make sure that they don't ask you any questions other than about the meal that you prepare, because it is so gorgeous and over the top. You need to make an herbed pork crown roast with a pearled couscous salad. It is a main and a side all in one. You know I'm a big fan of meals that make you look exceptionally good but actually require very little effort. This is a primarily do a little prep and then sit and watch it in the oven moment, and we love it. Behold, a crown roast. A crown roast is basically a rack of pork ribs in our case. You can do this with lamb, it'll be a little bit smaller with lamb ribs. 2 racks of ribs sutured together with twine, which you will get your butcher to do for you. You probably will need to just call them and let them know that you plan to do this, and they will be like, you're a miracle. I'm so glad that you are making this gorgeous, I think underutilized, spectacular presentation of meat. And the reason that it is exceptional is not just that it looks so elegant and holiday worthy, but also I think pork can frighten people sometimes. You always want to make sure you cook it fully, and in doing so, it can dry out. And people want juiciness. They want luscious memories of what they've eaten, and cooking pork this way actually is going to guarantee you a juicy, super fragrant, beautiful internal meat element. It's phenomenal. I'm going to roast the pork on top of a bed of vegetables, so we'll have some vegetable sides, but I'm also going to make a pearled couscous to go along with it, which is that sort of like much larger size of couscous. It's Israeli couscous, pearled couscous. It's like a very tender, chewy, beautiful ball of pasta that's going to soak up the flavor of the fresh herbs and apple and fennel that I'll put around it. And behold, you will have a winner on your hands. First up, we are going to make a gorgeous rub for our pork that is going to sit and saturate the meat with tons of flavor before it goes into the oven, which is also going to give the meat time to come up to temperature. Something that is important anytime you're cooking meat, but especially larger cuts like this, is you do need it to sit out of the fridge at least half an hour, 45 minutes, so that it comes up to room temperature. This is really going to help it cook more evenly, let the juices distribute more evenly, so you get the juiciest, most lovely possible outcome. We're going to multitask during that time by having the rub sit on the meat. I am using I went for a maximalist approach to this rub. All of my favorite flavors when it comes to pork. We are using horseradish. We are using jam, some apricot jam. Obviously pork chops and applesauce, something people probably have tried before or heard a lot about. Apricot is a really nice pairing here. It's sweet, it caramelizes beautifully, it has a kind of like earthiness to it. Love. Pairs great with the preserved horseradish. You can use fresh horseradish if you prefer. That is lovely and pungent too. Some Dijon mustard, crushed coriander, garlic, olive oil, lots of fresh herbs, thyme, and sage. Let's do it. Okay, it's pretty much equal parts also, which is, again, I'm a big fan of recipes that make you look really good without requiring a lot of effort. I'm also a big fan of recipes that can easily be memorized, because then they can very quickly become your own and you don't need to think about them too much. They just flow from your fingers like divine work that you were meant to do. Fresh thyme. Pulling it from the stem, and I'm just holding at the top of the sprig where the most delicate flower is up here, stripping down. Oop, all the leaves come off, and then the top little bud pops off also. Thyme into your bowl. Sage, obviously a beautiful complement with the thyme, very holiday specific, I feel like. Unfortunately, I do feel like sage gets left in the background too much of the rest of the year. So fresh, so earthy, definitely that savory but still very warming scent, which I think goes great with all different kinds of elements in typical holiday meals. Butternut squash, turkey, of course, and our pork is going to love it. So I just pulled the leaves off, and then I'm going to just do a quick chop on here, leaving tendrils that are, not too thin, because I don't want this to burn. And sage leaves are very delicate, so I didn't want to make the slices too tiny and risk them burning. That is about right there. To our herbs, I'm going to add some prepared horseradish. Start with about 2 tablespoons worth. You can always go back and add more, but prepared horseradish is Very strong flavor, very pungent, but acidic too. It's sitting in vinegar. It has a little sugariness to it, a little sweet saltiness. Love it. But you can customize to your desired amount. Some apricot jam, again, probably even parts to your prepared horseradish. You can always go back and add more. I do definitely want this to have that sweet moment coming through, but it's a savory main course moment, so don't go overboard. A bit of mustard, again, equal parts, so roughly 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. And let's get ourselves some chopped garlic. Let's do 4 cloves of garlic. I feel like this is a lot of meat and it can use the aromatic helping hand. Just release each clove from its skin with a quick pop and ta-da! And then I just go in and take off any of those sort of woody ends. And then we can give this all a rough chop. Nothing needs to be overly small or precise in this herb mix because it is going to be in the oven such a long time. Actually leaving the pieces slightly larger prevents some of the burning that can happen. So good news for you, even less work required. Just doing some quick slices, and I'll run my blade through a couple more times just to roughly even it out. Go ahead and add your garlic in with the apricot, mustard, prepare horseradish, fresh herbs. Coriander seed looks like this. Lovely little tiny balls. Coriander is exceptionally citrusy, I find. Goes great with lemon and lime and grapefruit flavors. It brings a nice amount of freshness to round and rich meals like this is going to be. And I would say you can definitely go for the full 2 tablespoons here as well. If you don't have a mortar and pestle, which would obviously be my preferred way to do the crushing of the coriander seed, you can use a heavy bottom skillet, cast iron, just rub it on a board and you will break these little coriander seeds up. Or you can do what I'm about to do, which is crush them. So I stuck them in this little bag, and then I am right back on chiropractic TikTok, just crushing out all the stress and tension of your coriander seeds. Guys, no joke. I'm not claiming I invented this method, but this is a much better method than trying to do it under our skillet. Wow. And what you are left with is a perfectly crushed cascade of coriander. Smells so good. Oh, you know, it kind of has that like Earl Grey moment going on too. There's that citrusy element. Okay, into the bowl with the rest of our rub condiments. Obviously need a healthy pinch of salt. If you're salt wary, you might be confused about the amount of salt that I'm using, but you need it. You absolutely must have it. It's a lot of meat and you want it to be delicious. And then I'm just going to add enough olive oil to make this into kind of a slick paste. I want to be able to rub it on the meat and have it really stick and hold. I don't want it just to pour over and run away. So start with a 1/4 cup. We're going to add a little bit more probably, but start there. Ooh, oh, the mustard, the horseradish, all that fresh herb, and then the balance of the apricot jam to really keep it all in line. Sweet, savory, memorable, holiday ready, deliciousness. Okay, do taste it. Oh. We're cooking tonight. Set this to the side for 1 minute while we prepare the vegetable offerings in this dish. Fennel, gorgeous. Just go ahead and trim off the stems. These stems are pretty woody and not that great, but I am going to save, although you can save them and put them in veggie stocks, things like that, in your freezer if you'd like. I am going to save the fennel fronds, which are these kind of furry little tendrils at the end. They make a gorgeous, very flavorful, and very architectural, height-giving finishing element, little garnish for the finished dish. So save those off to the side. And then for the bulb itself, we are going to, you know what, probably trim the bottom. I did give these a quick rinse, but I like to just trim away those woodier pieces, trying to leave the stem intact though so everything holds together. These are gonna go in the oven and roast, so I'm not as worried about the sort of dried out pieces on the outside, because once you start removing those, you are suddenly left with way less fennel. If they bother you, you can take them off. And certainly if I were making these for a fresh salad, I would take them off, but everything's gonna reduce and condense down and soften up in the oven anyway, so I'm not that concerned. And then I'm gonna do wedges, probably cutting each half into thirds. So you get roughly these 2-inch wedge pieces like so. Same thing on this side. And just go ahead and arrange these at the base of your pan. So if you don't cook a lot with fennel, I will say it can be an acquired taste. You know, in a fresh salad, it stays really crisp and does have that, you know, sweet but savory kind of licorice moment. But when it cooks, when it roasts, especially those, you know, outer leaves are gonna soak up all the flavor of the surrounding environment, which in our case will be pork roasting down its beautiful fat and deliciousness, the fresh herb rub that we made, wine. You're gonna like it. Okay, some shallots. Love a roasted onion moment. Shallots are tiny little onions that just seem to have a lot more of that sweet note coming through. They're very mild as they cook. They really soften up and are just such a great flavor pairing with our pork. These are actually nice sort of, you know, smaller size shallots. You could just slice them in half. You want everything cooking roughly evenly, so no enormous pieces, but you don't need to be too precise here. So let's do 4 shallots, because 4 shallots is what I have. Just stripping that skin away and toss them in the pan. So we have all of our fennel and shallots here in the base of our roasting pan. You definitely could do this on just a cookie sheet if you have that. If you have a roasting rack to put inside, even better, because you kind of, what I'm sort of doing with these veg is creating a lift for our meat so that the air in the oven circulates and you get a really even, beautiful golden browning cook process. But I find that especially with juices running around, it can be very helpful to have a high-sided pan like this. Just a little olive oil on top and a little sprinkle of salt. Obviously, we have delicious salt coming through in the herb rub, so you don't need to go too salty, but you want your veg to have just a little bit of a oil glossing so that they have a little protection against the heat in the oven. Scatter these around evenly, and then go ahead and grab your pork. And I will remove my rings for this, any rings with pockets that can capture what we're cooking with. Grab some nice handfuls of your beautiful herb rub. And just make sure every nook and cranny of this pork crown roast gets lavished with horseradish, apricot, mustard, fresh herbs. So much flavor. So much fun. Okay. Definitely lift up and get underneath as well, guys. You want all sides, super flavorful and delicious. All right, that looks good to me. Lovely and full of flavor. And now, nestle your pork on top of all those veg. Gather up anything that was left behind, waste not, want not. Scatter that over top. Now that I have the rub on this pork, I'm gonna let it sit at room temperature about half an hour. Let those flavors really penetrate the meat, some of that salt penetrate into the meat as well. If you want one extra layer to this recipe just to enhance the flavor even more, take your crown roast and just salt it the night before and leave it in the refrigerator uncovered. It will just let the salt penetrate and give it that much more time to really start to season and have the surface dry out a little bit so you get even more rich golden brown crusting as it cooks. But if you forget about it or don't bother to do it, you're still gonna get tons of flavor here. This half an hour sitting in the marinade, basting of our herb rub is really gonna make it very nice. While that's going on, I'm actually going to get crafty, which we know happens rarely in my kitchen, but when it does, it's for good reason. We're gonna make little booties for each of these lovely little ribs. And the reason for that is because, like I said, this is going to be 2 hours in the oven, maybe a little longer just because we have such a nice, big, rich roast here. And we don't want our little bones to burn. So take a little square of tin foil. You can definitely buy these adorable looking little chef hat things that you can stick on. You know, bless you if you have room in your kitchen for the amount of strange paraphernalia that is available to you. But this works really well. And that's all. There's no special method here. So you're just gonna take a square of aluminum, slip it on over the rib, and just roll it over. We're just protecting each from the heat. And I like to leave, you know, half an inch or so from the meat just to make sure we're not getting in the way of maximum flavor. All right, I'll get these last 2 wrapped up, just like at the nail salon when you're getting your gels removed. and it will look like this. Now that it's sat about half an hour, I am just going to drizzle a little bit more olive oil on top of our roast just to really, give it that protection from the heat, give it a little extra fat. It doesn't need much, obviously. There's a beautiful fat cap up here that's going to help auto-baste as this roasts. I know you're worried about the salt, but don't be worried about the salt. You need it. You need it. I promise you, the amount of salt you might be used to eating either in prepared processed foods or at restaurants is infinitely more salt than you are currently using at home. So salt, enough salt is critical. This is going to go into a 425 degree oven for half an hour, and then we're going to adjust the temp a little bit, add a little splash of wine, and keep the roasting going. Always remember to bend with your legs on this. It weighs like, solid 15 pounds. See you in half an hour. So the pork has been in the oven about half an hour. We're gonna lower the temp now to 375. Just adding a little splash of wine along the corners, maybe a quarter cup or so. Take the moment to give your pan a rotation. Lower our temp down to 375. And that's gonna keep cooking probably 2 hours, maybe 2.5, maybe 3. Depending on the size of your roast, your oven, etc. We're looking for a perfect 140, 142. As it rests after the pork is done cooking, the temperature will continue to rise, finishing at that 145, juicy, perfectly cooked, perfect pork. And we're gonna make a beautiful little couscous salad to go alongside so that when this is all done, you will have roasted vegetables, a beautiful starchy side, and perfectly cooked meat. Delightful. Okay, look at this crown roast. It is phenomenally beautiful. Is she gorgeous? She's gorgeous. I'm gonna remove our crown roast to a plate just to finish resting because I wanna put the vegetables back in the oven and let them really caramelize down. So very carefully move it to your serving platter. And marvel once again. Now you can go back and remove the protective little booties from each of the ribs, revealing still beautifully caramelized and golden brown finishes. Smells insane. So meaty. That coriander pop happening through. Lots of garlic. Delicious. Okay, in the pan itself, we have some of the rendered juices from your pork. This is really going to depend on how much wine you add. I added a little bit with a generous hand. But it's also going to depend on how much liquid just comes out of your pork. So you may want to just spoon some of this off. I am going to do that after just giving these veg a quick toss in it so that they really have an opportunity to sit on the hot surface of the pan and get nice and caramelized. Back in the oven while I make a pearled couscous salad to go along with our pork, which gives the pork time to rest. And lo and behold, half an hour from now, we will have a full meal ready to go. Lovely. Okay, gorgeous. Going into our oven. Just until rich and golden brown. And let's move on to the couscous. These are our lovely couscous grains. This is a pearled couscous, an Israeli couscous, Middle Eastern couscous. It looks like this, sort of little round discs of pasta. I'm gonna use about a cup. The first step in making a great couscous is to toast it. So I'm gonna grab a little skillet and give about a cup of these grains a nice little warming toast, 4 to 5 minutes over a medium flame before I boil them. And that creates a really nutty, rich flavor. You can also find whole wheat couscous like this. That does also bring lots of nutty flavor if you like that. To the skillet. So over a medium flame, I'm going to add about a cup of our couscous grains in. And I'll just come in here and toss them every once in a while. They will develop a lovely little amber kind of golden brown hue. And then I will pop them into a pot of salted boiling water to get that nice tender chew that we know and love from couscous. So once your couscous are lovely and golden brown like so, you're going to add them to a pot of salted boiling water. Whoa, that's gonna get nice and happy. I do like to just give a little stir right here at the beginning. Beyond that, I don't worry too much. You'll check on them around that 8-minute mark because we want these lovely and tender. They should not be mushy or falling apart. A little bit al dente is good because they're warm, and I'm gonna drop them into a gorgeous vinaigrette. So as they sort of finish that plumping process, they will drink up some of that vinaigrette flavor, which will make you very happy. Okay, boil, boil. So we're gonna make a couscous salad with lots of fresh herbs. I'm gonna have some mint and parsley going in, a nice little sweet note from some apple, more fennel, bringing it back. I love the combination of a cooked fennel and raw fennel, both coming together in the salad. And for the vinaigrette, it's gonna be really simple. We're gonna add some white wine vinegar. You can use apple cider vinegar too. And your ratio is gonna be roughly, to my taste, because I like it nice and tart and acidic, 1 part vinegar to about 2 parts oil. But before we start to emulsify with the oil mix, I'm gonna add a little maple syrup in just to highlight and accentuate the sweetness from the apples, a bit of Dijon mustard, and a pinch of salt. Nice, about a teaspoon of salt. And then for the sort of aromatics going into this vinaigrette, I want 2 cloves of garlic. Sometimes I find that too much garlic in a salad dressing actually is very distracting. Unless, of course, you are making my grandmother's eggless Caesar salad, in which case that amount of heavy garlic is perfection. But for this vinaigrette, I think 2 cloves will be plenty, and I am gonna also add a little bit of shallot, so you get that oniony allium family twice. I just give the garlic a quick mince, but you can also choose to cream it if you'd like to, just by adding a bit of salt, and then using the salt to kind of massage those chopped garlic pieces into a lovely smooth paste. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're not making a smooth sauce here, but it does help the garlic flavor kind of permeate every bite, which we love, into our bowl. Now, shallot. Just, I think, 1 small to medium shallot is plenty here. And I am gonna put a little mince on this guy. Again, the point is to have flavors of the shallot and the garlic coming through in every bite. So we want to make sure it distributes evenly in the vinaigrette. I'm just going to finish mincing up these shallots and then quickly pop over and check on our couscous. But you can see I'm putting a really nice fine mince on here into our vinaigrette. Our couscous are all done. Quickly drain them off and then bring them over to be put together with our vinaigrette. You can see the grains are lovely and tender, soft, but still with plenty of gorgeous chew on them. And actually, while I'm up and about, I'm gonna grab our veg that I think are beautifully caramelized at this point based on what I'm smelling in the environment. Oh wow, much better. We got some gorgeous golden brown caramelization, that lovely brown color. Yum. I'll let those cool for 1 sec while I finish up our vinaigrette, where I need olive oil. So you kind of want to just start to slowly drizzle your oil in so that it emulsifies into the vinegar and shallot and starts to form this lovely suspended thickened vinaigrette. The maple syrup helps with that too. Putting a damp dish towel under your bowl is really going to help make sure that it does not escape from you. Much better. And I don't mind if there's sort of little rivulets of acid running around in with the oil. I don't need it totally emulsified, but just about there. Ooh, oh, that's lovely. That is delicious. And now while the couscous is still nice and warm, I'm going to add it quickly into the vinaigrette so it can soak up all that delicious flavor, and it'll keep your couscous grains from sticking together because they're now being coated in this acid and fat combo. Okay, set that to the side. We're gonna work on our veg now. So we've got our fresh fennel and our apple, and we are gonna use those fronds again. We are going to use the dreaded mandolin, which I will say is the only piece of kitchen equipment I actively avoid, but it does yield gorgeous, even slices of your veg, and that is what we're after. But you're just gonna work really slowly, really carefully, and definitely feel free to use a knife if you prefer. And now here's the thing. No one needs to be a hero when it comes to a mandolin. Stop when you've got a solid ½ inch left so you're not getting anywhere close to your fingers. And then you are left with these beautifully cut little tendrils of fresh, crunchy, sweet, crisp fennel. I'm telling you, your girl does not even like licorice, and it's delicious. Okay, in with our couscous. Same thing with our apple. just going to slice myself those two. And then for the sort of thinner sides, I do just find it easier to thin slice with a knife. Honestly, you could do the whole thing with a knife. These into the bowl. Ah, look at this. Yum. Especially if you're gonna let this salad sit at all, go ahead and make sure you toss those apples with the vinaigrette pretty quickly so that they don't have a chance to brown. And just as an FYI, mandolins do come with guards that make this experience infinitely more enjoyable. So don't lose yours. Huzzah, we are done with the mandolin. We survived. And you can definitely just use a knife if you don't own a mandolin or you don't feel like today is the day you need to risk life and limb for a delicious meal. Next up, now that they've cooled ever so slightly, I'm gonna grab our roasted veg. And you definitely have the option to just serve these alongside your beautiful roast. But I think it's gonna be kind of amazing to chop them up and add them in with our salad. So go ahead and grab little bundles of your just come on, look at how, so you saw how fresh and crisp the raw fennel could be. Now look at what happens when you let that baby roast in the oven like we did. Absolute pull apart perfection with that golden brown sweetness all around it. Very soft and luscious. Truly delectable. And just go ahead and give it a rough chop. Nothing too crazy here. It's all gonna get married in with the salad. And don't forget, you also have gorgeous roasted shallots. So we'll just echo a lot of the raw ingredients we have in the salad coming through in our lovely chopped blend into our blend here. Let's just grab a few more. We can save a few larger pieces for serving alongside the meat. Maybe I'm gonna focus on the roasted shallots because they are just so sweet. All those caramelized oniony goodness and fennel happening. Okay, and finally it is time to add handfuls of beautiful fresh parsley. I'm not even gonna bother chopping it. I love the effect of just like beautiful torn leaves of parsley. I feel like it really adds to that I'm pretending to be lettuce effect. Plus so much great flavor. I feel like adding this beautiful boost of herbs just enhances salads so nicely. And I'm just plucking out any sort of tougher stems. I would say I'm going for a full cup of parsley here. Really packing it in for you guys. Plus the mint, which I am going to give a quick chop to because I find that mint just tastes, it has such a beautiful, distinct flavor, but if it comes in too strong, it can kind of be overpowering. And I find these little tendrils just balance beautifully. And into our salad. Let's toss it up and see what we're working with. Look at this combination. You're not joking. And wait, there's one more thing we need after it's fully tossed and gorgeously combined. My mouth is watering. It's a great day. Okay. Oh, I don't even know what I want to focus on first. Apple, parsley. Ooh, get your little fennel in here. My mouth is so awake right now with all this insane flavor, texture combo. It's beyond. One more thing, a scattering of slivered almonds on top, just to really dose up that crunch appeal. I don't need anything else. This is your side for everything. I have this kale salad that I'm obsessed with that I make every holiday because it just takes a little time. You have to like prepare the kale and toast pine nuts and pick out pomegranate seeds and make this gorgeous like apple cider vinegar maple vinaigrette. This might replace it. And when all is said and done, look at your gorgeous, gorgeous girl. Ready for your holiday extravaganza. I cannot wait to have this on my Christmas table. This salad, I can't stop eating it. We haven't even tried the pork yet. Let's get into it. We're gonna cut in to our gorgeous ribs. Let's start over here. Just using your knife to saw between these bones. Getting everybody a truly generous portion of ultra juicy, perfectly cooked pork. I'm gonna let you have a moment right here. We with the steam coming up, and it's so juicy. Oh my gosh. Could you die? I could die. I could die. It's so good. All right, so to plate, let's, it's the holidays. Let's do 2 slices, because why not? And then go ahead and grab yourself a happy little mountain of this perfect salad. Oh my gosh. There, like so. Okay, but wait, there's more. Get some of your beautiful reserved fresh fennel fronds, not to go crazy, just a little scattering over your meat and your salad. The final step is to get a little tiny drizzle of olive oil over the whole thing, and a little tiny pinch of flaky salt. And my friends, there could not possibly be anything more sumptuous and exciting and flavor explosion and combination of textures to put down on your holiday table this year. Oh my gosh. But we can't just admire her, we have to eat it. You already saw me go nuts over the salad, so I guess I'm gonna go pork first here. Oh my gosh, this is so juicy. I can't stand it. Ah, yum. It is so tender. It is so rich. It is so scented with that wonderful herb blend that we put on top, that little hint of mustard coming through, tiny, tiny touch of sweetness from the apricot. The juiciest pork that I have ever made. Let me get the perfect bite. Lots of little tender pearls of couscous, all our fresh herbs, apple, fennel, the juiciest pork. Merry Christmas. I hope you have the most beautiful holiday. And you better make this meal because you're gonna love it. Mwah.